All right, everyone, it's Tom here with Hidden Beats, and today we have Ottawa's own Maurice Moore. How are you doing?
What's going on, man? I'm good. I'm great. I'm feeling great.
So for new viewers and listeners, give yourself a little intro and your accolades here.
Well, I'm a singer, songwriter, producer. I've written for everybody from her, Chris Brown, Justine Skye, Jordan Sparks. You know, my number one passion is my artistry, and I put out two mixtapes rather. I'm getting ready to put out my first album this year. So, you know, we've been slowly on the rise, grinding, putting in the groundwork, and I'm excited for it to all kind of culminate into everything that's aligning right now.
Nice, yeah. Like we've seen you a few times now doing your thing, like live with T.I. when you were here a few years ago.
Yes, sir.
How is it opening for big names like that?
It's great, man. I feel like it's always, especially when it's a well-curated event, you know, you're not just opening for some random artist, but some type of artist that has a kind of similar alignment with your message. And I feel like it's great to just have that platform to be able to go on there and show people who you are and your craft. So I love it. I love it. And I'm grateful for all the opportunities like that.
Yeah, that was a crazy night. I was in the back doing a whole bunch of stuff, and
yeah, it gets rowdy. It gets rowdy back home in Ottawa, man. It gets rowdy.
Oh, for sure. So start off with kind of your history. So who inspired you to get into music?
You know what? That's interesting, because when I first like my first ever time where I knew I was in love with music was probably back home with my family. My family was always playing different music, from country music, Shania Twain, which is like super random for a lot of my fans. They're like, they can't believe it when I tell them like my favorite artist is Shania Twain. But I grew up on like a lot of country music. And then once I got into like elementary school, all the homies, we used to make beats on the tables and rap and freestyle. And that was really where the passion birthed for me. And I realized that I actually really enjoyed writing and telling stories, and even the competitive side of music. I was starting to fall in love with it. And when I got into high school, I had been rapping now for 6 years, since elementary school. And my sisters are all these crazy vocalists. Like, they all sing, they can do all the runs, all the high notes, all the Mariah Carey type stuff. And I never was like drawn to doing that myself. But once I got into high school, my sisters kind of convinced me to start singing a little bit. And I was kind of resistant towards it, because I was like, nah, you know, I'm a rapper. I'm not trying to do none of that soft singing type stuff. But after a while, they kind of convinced me, and I opened up to the idea of it. And I recorded my first kind of singing song, and just expanded my mind, man. I never even thought about music in that way until that moment. And I remember going to school and playing it for all the girls and seeing them respond a certain way.
Yeah.
Then I was like, you know what? I like this a lot. And ever since, man, I just been putting in the time and the hours into the craft and studying and learning. A lot of my favorite artists are across the board, genre-wise. You know, I'll listen to Tupac, and in that same playlist, you'll have Shania Twain. You might have some Frank Ocean. You know, you might have some Stevie Wonder in there, Kendrick Lamar. It's really across the board. And I just am I'm just a overall nerd about music, man. I love it. And it started from a child, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I'm a fan of a good song, or a good track. Like, if it's done right, doesn't matter who's doing it, what genre.
Yeah,
you know, if it hits you a little bit, that's the type of music you want to listen to, for sure.
Hell yeah.
So, like I said, the first time we saw you was opening for T.I. I hadn't experienced your music before, and watching you on stage, you held that stage pretty good, and you got the crowd going pretty crazy. The girls loved it. And I know you brought a girl up on stage and she almost passed out or something like that. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah, man.
So how is it performing live? Like, you know, it's a whole different experience from just, you know, making a track and putting it out there. What's live like to you?
Live is like a whole, like you said, man, it's a whole separate thing. And I have to kind of put aside time to really, the same way that I'll go in on like an album, I have to put that same type of focus and energy into the live show. I think a lot of times, like in this day and age, the live performance gets overlooked, especially in like the COVID era. It's almost like performances have kind of dwindled away as like this important thing, but I still I still think of it as something that can really transform the way that you see an artist and how you interpret their art. And you know, my stage performance has evolved over the years, even since that TI show, man. Like I feel like I've I've refined my choices. You know, I used to always have like crazy dancers on stage and the whole band. You know, I still do the band, but you know, I kind of left out the dancers with this latest project and let it kind of focus on my voice and my message. So you know, I feel like it's something that I'm always refining and always trying to find a way to show a side of myself that I can't on a song. You know, I have to be there with the people to show them this side of me, and it's hard to do. It's hard to be that vulnerable on stage. So it's something that I'm excited to continue exploring and evolving in.
Yeah, nice. I mean, that's that. You got to go, and everyone grows through music, so you're always gonna, do something a bit different every time. I see, anyways.
Yeah, definitely.
So speaking about COVID, how did that affect you? Like, did you have trouble with it at the start, or?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I actually went back home to kind of be with my family. It was super chaotic, and I'm living in LA now. But right at the top of COVID, I came back, and I was just worried about my family, and everyone was tripping. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just come back. So I spent most of 2020 back home in Canada, which was different from being in LA and kind of around the hustle bustle and the whole industry. But it was kind of therapeutic in a way to go back home and like reconnect with my family in a way that I hadn't in a long time. And, you know, it taught me a lot about myself. I had a lot of time to just sit there and kind of reflect. And I feel like I made good use of that time to actually, you know, I started journaling and started writing about my feelings and my thoughts. And, you know, a lot of the music that I'm about to put out this year is all from that kind of time period. So I was really doing like some self exploration, if you will, kind of on a spiritual journey. And COVID kind of initiated that whole process. So in a way, you know, it's full of a lot of bullshit, but it was also like pretty transformative as well.
Yeah, I find that a lot of people are saying it gave them a chance to kind of reflect and learn new things and kind of develop a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like you kind of realize like people are like in our modern world, we're so like rushed. We feel like we have to accomplish so much and do so many things and work so hard. And having that time just reminded me like, yo, time is moving as fast as you perceive it. But people are not even like present enough to the moment to actually realize how much time that we actually have. You know, we're not just working on the computer, we're working on the computer, but we're listening to a podcast or some music in the background.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just like at the gym, you know, we're at the gym and then someone calls us on our Bluetooth and we're having a conversation. It's like we're never like just fully present. And that's like the biggest thing that I took away from this whole experience is like just being more present, man. There's so much time, there's so much enjoyment in every second. And it's something that I was completely kind of oblivious to prior to that. Like I had like this subtle awareness, but it like really hit me. It was like a huge moment, cracked my whole brain open.
Yeah. Did you get into doing like live performances or anything for fans, or like did you do anything with that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I did some festivals, some like digital festivals. That was really cool. It was a unique way to perform. It wasn't quite the same thing, but it was cool just to be able to actually, you know, put on a show for the fans and like, you know, keep the rust off. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
I know a lot of people had issues trying to even develop something for that because, you know, a digital performance didn't exist really before. So you can do a little bit of, you know, Instagram lives and that, but if you're trying to put on a whole thing, that never happened.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I was lucky because I'm also an audio engineer and producer. So I feel like that kind of helped me as well to put together a show. And I didn't really need to go hire anybody or bring people in. It was just like, oh, yeah, I see how this could work. You can just route your microphone to the stream and, you know, stuff like that. There was a little bit of a learning curve with the streaming stuff, but like it was actually, it was a fun process and another way, another thing that opened up my mind to like, damn, you know what? I don't necessarily need to be always like thinking about the next tour, always thinking about, you know, I need to be in this city or this specific location. Like I could actually just tap in with my fans online and give them like a really special performance, you know, even without being there in person. So it's cool, man. It's dope.
I know I had to do a lot of, so actually this is the first time I've used this camera for interviews today, and it took me a bit to set up a mic before. Like I had a lot of growing pains trying to figure that
Oh
out.
yeah, I was gonna say you look like you got your whole setup going crazy over there.
Oh, this is all a mess back here. I also launched a clothing line, so this is just all a mess from that. We just did a photo shoot this weekend and trying to figure all that nonsense out. I got a lot going on back there too. So
well, congrats on the launch, my man. That's what's up.
Yeah, hopefully I'll have some pictures soon, so that'll be pretty sweet. And then we're also doing an Indigenous line too. So we're gonna have because I'm actually half Indigenous myself. So
no way.
Yeah, a piece from every sale is gonna go to support Indigenous charities, which will be kind of cool once I drop that officially.
I love that. I got Cherokee in my bloodline as well, man. So that's cool. That's cool.
I'll make sure I'll hook you up with a hoodie or something. I'll send one out to you.
I love that, brother. I love that.
Yeah, nice.
Right.
And then so I understand growing pains anyways. Like this camera being brand new, the one I had beforehand would actually shut off every 20 minutes because just overheat and stuff like that. So it's pretty crazy. But I think they got it pretty good so far.
No, it looks solid over there, man.
So one of the main reasons we're actually here too is you just got an award for Black Music, the Black Canadian Music Award. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Dude, was not expecting anything in that nature to receive any type of award like that. I was kind of taken back. I mean, I do expect it in the sense of, I know the work that I put in and I trust that it's going out and people are receiving it, but it always feels good to be recognized, to be kind of seen, and when you're kind of just putting your head down and grinding, you don't really ever get the chance to kind of just like smell the flowers. So it was definitely really nice to receive that award. It's an annual award that SoCan does. And, it just kind of reminded me that I'm on the right path. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Like, so did someone nominate you for that, or how'd that even come up?
I believe my management submitted me for the award they submit me for various awards just to see what happens. You never know. And so they submitted me and we kind of just forgot about it. And then about a month before they announced the award, they reached out to me. So I had to wait a month before I could tell anybody. I was like, okay. Like trying so hard not to say anything, but it was a pleasant surprise for sure.
Yeah, so we've done a few things with SoCan. We just did the Woman in Music program recently. Yeah. So when I saw your name come across my desk, I was like, oh, nice. Okay, Ottawa local got one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So how does this award, does this award help you grow in a way? Like it validates what you're doing, or how does that feel for you?
I mean, there's a financial reward as well. They gave us $5,000, so for me, I'm just gonna pour that back into all the music and everything I'm doing. I have a project coming out, and we actually have a meeting with SoCan coming up where we're supposed to talk about different things like Canadian radio, which is something I've always kind of struggled with, breaking into the Canadian radio market. So, that's really cool. I'm doing a songwriting camp in Spain coming up. So some cool things kind of that SoCan's able to do. And I've done stuff with SoCan in the past as well. So I already have a tremendous respect for what they do, and they've put me in positions to win in the past. So, this is like taking it to just another level and building that relationship, really.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, songwriting camp in Spain sounds pretty awesome.
Dude. I mean, honestly, I've done a lot of writing camps in my life so far. This would be the first time in Spain, but I've done Greece, I've done Korea, and a lot of my placements overseas with all the K-pop groups are actually most of them are from those camps. Okay. So they're really great opportunities to get, big placements and big cuts on other artists, and also just to network with other incredible talents and build your network out there. So I enjoy it. It's fun, and you're just in like this place you've never been, in paradise, and it's sick, man. Yeah, for sure. So, like when you're doing these camps, is it a goal for you to develop a certain number of tracks? Like, you have a task in mind when you're doing these? So usually, like you're expected to have at least one song done every day. Like I'm talking start to finish, the vocals, the lyrics. It's like you could release this tomorrow.
Okay.
Which is a lot of work. You're pretty much there all day. And then in the nighttime, they usually, you know, take you out for a nice dinner, you know, buy drinks, and it's like a whole thing. And the shortest camp I've ever done was probably 5 days, but average, they're usually 7 to 10 days. So you can imagine a lot of work is being done. There's like 3 or 4, sometimes 5 rooms, each with 2 writers and a producer. So by the end of a camp, we have this big listening session. We're listening to like 50 songs. Okay. And usually a good percentage of those end up on, you know, a lot of your favorite artists' albums. You know, it's crazy. It's actually wild how they do it.
Is there one track that you've written that kind of you're like, damn, this one went pretty good when you wrote for someone? Or
yeah, I mean, one of them, I did this song for Justine Skye. This wasn't at a camp actually, but that opportunity came from a camp that I did where I wrote this song called Yeah Yeah Yeah, which didn't end up getting picked up. So I released it myself and became the first song that I ever put out that got on the radio in Canada. I think I probably performed it at that TI show. And it was like my biggest song of that moment in time. And it got a lot of people kind of talking. Next thing I know, I'm in LA in the studio with Justine Skye, who's signed to Rock Nation. And I did a song off of her project called Push Ya, which turned out crazy. And it was just cool, man. It's cool, like, to see how all these things kind of are connected. You never think like, oh, this thing in Spain is gonna put me in the room with, you know, somebody in LA, but it's all connected. And it's that's really the best part. That's why you gotta be present to every moment, man, because you never know. It could be you walking to the gas station and that's the moment, you know.
Yeah, and communities out there, and there's always people around for sure.
Yeah, it's everywhere, man. And everybody in California and LA specifically is trying to do cool creative things, is trying to push the envelope and working hard on their craft. So it's easy. Like, if you're in that mindset, like, it's all gonna align.
So how would you say your music has grown since you first started? Like, you've obviously you've been doing this a little bit now, and you've got a lot of accolades under your belt. How have you grown from start to now?
You know what? I think I've gotten more clear about who I am as a person, as a human being, like, outside of music, outside of my craft, kind of just taking some time to really, like I said, study myself. And I feel like that process kind of has refined my taste in a way, changed the way that I want to express myself, and made me understand more what I want to say. And so, where maybe in the past it was just purely just for fun, it's like now I really feel like I have a platform that I want to use. And, you know, a lot of my favorite artists, you know, Kendrick Lamar, Tupac, you know, all these artists kind of led their careers with the overarching message behind everything they did. And the music was just like the vessel to carry it. So that's really the way that I think I've grown the most. This next project that I'm putting out is like, it's fun, it's enjoyable to listen to, but it also, you know, one of the masters of that, actually, Kendrick Lamar, to me, is the master of taking a song that when you listen to it, you don't even realize how much depth is in it, because you're just like, eh. But then you actually sit down, you're like, holy shit, he really said that. That's kind of something that I really was inspired by. And as I get to know myself more, it's more something that I realize I know for sure has to be a part of what I do, because there's just too much going on in the world. There's too much going on in this cranium. Like, I gotta let it out. I gotta express it. So that's probably the biggest way.
Do you have a title for the project coming out, or nothing?
Yes.
Nothing we could talk about yet, or?
Yeah, I can tell you the name. This will actually be the first time I ever say the name, and it's only right because it's, you know, it's Ottawa in the building. So it's actually called I Need Space. And that's about all I can say at this moment in time. But it is done. The project is done. But we're holding off on a lot of the details until everything is kind of all set in stone.
Okay, well, I mean, once we see it, we'll make sure to put across all the platforms and share it for you there for sure. My brother. So with the project coming up, and do you have any plans for like live shows and stuff now that things are opening back up?
Yeah. Actually, I just had a meeting with my agent, which is with ICM Partners, and we're just talking about different festivals. You know, this festival season is kind of a wash a little bit, just because we've been so focused on getting this project done. And finally it's starting to wrap up. So pretty much after this project, we're gonna start looking to do a lot of festivals. We're gonna see if we can get me on like an opening act or opening slot, sorry, for a tour. And ICM is great. They've booked me for a lot of great shows in the past. So we'll see what happens, man. Nothing is really set in stone. So for me, it's just all about just preparation and getting ready for when the button gets pressed.
Mm-hmm. I know we have a few kind of on books right now, and Blues Fest got announced, so we're kind of
Blues Fest.
We're starting to get back into the whole things here, but I'm excited for some shows for sure.
Oh man, it's necessary. It's necessary.
Yeah.
Man.
We were able to do a couple small ones kind of in the middle of those random, like, oh, you can open for 10 minutes and then lock down again.
Oh yeah.
So we had a couple that would kind of space it out nicely, but people are getting antsy and they want to get out there and do things for sure.
Yeah, man. It's been too long. Been too long.
So I have a couple kind of, I call them my big questions at the end. And I'll tell you right now, these stump a lot of people because they make you think. But we'll start off. We'll start off a little bit easy for you, because you're an Ottawa local. What do you think of the local scene here?
It's evolved a lot. Me personally, I haven't been in the city for, I want to say 3 years now. So, I feel like the way it is right now, I have a lot of homies still back home that are doing music. And from what I can see, the scene is actually developing. I see a lot of people starting management firms, which I've never seen in Ottawa, like trying to like actually develop artists in the city. And that's a new thing for me. When I was coming up, early in my career, we never had that. We did have cool little events like House of Paint, stuff like that, which was definitely a staple for me. But I think nowadays it's just people are becoming more aware, man. It's the age of information, and people are starting to realize like, yo, yeah, we don't need to be in LA or we don't need to be in New York. Like we can just, learn as much as we can about branding and how to use these platforms to reach people. And I think it's empowered a lot of artists, and not to mention all the funding that's going on and especially in Ontario for artists. I think a lot of Ottawa artists are taking advantage, and you're able to see the quality of work kind of scale upwards. So I'm honestly excited for Ottawa. I'm hoping to get back to Ottawa really soon because, there's a couple artists out there that I'm pretty excited about, and think, I think the city just has so much untapped potential, man.
Anyone you want to shout out at all? Any of your boys?
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out Jeff Sannon, who's an incredible producer, rapper from the city. And I'm gonna also shout out Jaden, JYDN, a great R&B singer. And those are my guys.
I've actually seen Jaden a couple times, like those locally here. So
dope, dope.
He's sick.
Yeah, we grew up together.
I like him. Nice. So next question: who is your dream collab?
Dream collab? Wow. Let's go with it's a cross between these two artists for sure, but Frank Ocean and Shania Twain.
Okay. Well, what do you think? What do you think a Maurice and Shania Twain song would sound like?
I think it would sound beautiful. I think it would probably be on the ballad side of things. And I love a good ballad, so I'm here for it.
I think that'd be sick. Actually, that would be really cool.
It'd be cool, man. I think R&B and country have a lot of like parallels.
Well, yeah, and you definitely see a lot more genre mixing now too. Like, look at Lil Nas X with his kind of hip hop and country swing and everything. It's happening a lot more.
Yeah, I love it. I love all the mixing of genres. I feel like that's always how I've approached my music. And so it feels good that like the world is becoming more receptive and more understanding of like, holy shit, like we don't have to just listen to rap music. Like I also like Shania Twain. I could listen to a genre. Like there's artists out there that make like the hybrid of between those. And that's exciting for me. I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. So we know you like a lot of different types of music. Do you have something on your playlist that people would be like completely surprised you listen to, like a favorite song? People would be like, no way.
I feel no way. Actually, yeah. I listen to a lot of it's a genre called hyperpop. I don't know if you've
Okay.
heard of hyperpop, but
I've
it's
heard the
like,
name, yeah.
it's honestly my latest obsession. And it's kind of like, imagine auto-tune on steroids with like pitched up chipmunk vocals, very fast beats, and like distorted sounds, like overly distorted beyond what any normal amount of distortion would be. It's like, it's insane. And what I like about it though is that it really it plays with like the extremes of what's possible in music. I feel like a lot of times in music, and I'm guilty of this myself, we kind of play it safe. Like there's like a certain threshold of like craziness that you're like, okay, I can't go past here. This is like, all right. Hyperpop says, yo, fuck all that. We're gonna do whatever we want to do. And I've honestly taken a lot of that and applied it to my own music in doses. You know, I'm like, oh, you know what if this like snare was just like, not just like a clean snare, but maybe it was like, boom, you know? So like weird things that they do, weird choices that they make have really inspired me to expand my musical palette, so to speak. You know, the colors on my tray, I'm really adding extra colors. And you're going to hear some of that on the new album for sure.
And I think with the way digital is going now, you can do so much with just a computer thing. You don't need a whole, band setup or anything like that. There's a lot you can do now, which makes things that much crazier.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And my girlfriend is her dad is actually a rocker. He's a musician himself. And I've been spending some time with him, and he's on the complete other side of the spectrum. He's always playing live music. He's with his band. And so like having those polarizing kind of approaches to music, immediately one after another, I'll sit down with him, jam out with him, and then go to the studio and work on my stuff. And maybe I'm listening to some like hyperpop, and I'm kind of bridging the gap, and I'm seeing like, it's crazy what's possible with music now, man. It's truly amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, I love the way music's going. I mean, there's some things that just don't vibe with me the greatest. Yeah. I'm a bit of an older school guy, like some old school stuff and some new things. I'm like, yeah, I'm not really there for that, but I love music in general. It just helps you get through life in a sense.
Absolutely.
All right, so these next two questions are my biggest two that actually stump people the most.
All right.
What is a piece of advice that you were given coming up that you've held on to the most?
The piece of advice that I've gotten while coming up that I've held on to the most.
Everyone has kind of one that sticks a little bit more than others in their careers.
You know what? I feel like this is the most valuable advice that I got in hindsight, but I didn't know it when I received it because I thought I knew everything. But when I got this advice, the advice was essentially, it's a cliche piece of advice, which is why I probably ignore it, but it's to always follow like what is your authentic creative values. Like don't change your values to be more appreciated or to get more validation. Stay true to who you are. And I think I took that for granted because I always thought I was. And I think when I moved to LA was when I kind of, in such an insidious and subtle way, kind of forgot that and was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I need to change my approach to become more successful and, maybe make music that's more like what people are doing over here, because it seems like this is working. And it's awfully ironic because that never got me the results that being myself got me, which is it's like, it's so like against the logic. You're like, oh, well, this is successful, I should do this. But it's interesting how the universe works, man. I feel like when you're putting out that pure vibration, that pure frequency, and it's clearly coming from a place of love of who you are, knowing who you are, it has different rippling effects. And so I found the most success when I've been the most authentic to myself, even though, even my biggest song, for example, it's called The Loudest Silence. And it's a song I made when I was 19. It's still my biggest song. And I had no intention of it being successful. It has like a 45-second intro. Like that breaks all the rules of what you're supposed to do these days. And yet it's still, streaming like crazy, millions and millions and millions of streams.
It's
So
at like 30 million on Spotify, I think.
yeah,
Like-
30 million on Spotify, something like that. So, you know, that would probably be my biggest advice. You know, it's advice that's easy to overlook, but I think it's really profound if you actually truly understand what that really means.
And I hear that a lot, actually, because the same thing, people don't, they look at that piece of advice and go, you know, and they do things through a different way and then turn around and be like, man, I wish I would have kept up with that the whole way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now so kind of a part two of the question, is there advice that you would give someone coming up now that you've kind of absorbed over the last few years?
I think the biggest thing with artists is artists tend to be pretty sensitive people. Even the hardest rappers and whatever that you think are so hard, like we're really sensitive about our craft and about you know, the way people feel about our art. And I feel like the best thing any artist can do is to stop being so externally focused. Don't look outside for your validation. Don't get caught up in the thirst for validation and looking externally outside of you. I feel like the profound things that artists do, the great artists, the Kanye West, the Frank Oceans, you know, the Michael Jacksons, the Princes, you know, these artists are great because they kind of shut out the world and focused in on themselves and their message. And I feel like that's the best thing any artist can do. I actually put up a poll on my Instagram a couple weeks ago about whether or not my fans would think that artists should write their own music. It was an interesting debate. There's people on both sides. And, you know, I kept telling people, you know, I feel like artists actually have a legitimate purpose in society. Like, we're not supposed to just be this product to be sold and, like, you know, mass produced and just thrown out like fast food. You know, we're supposed to actually be the ones that are putting in the work, putting in the time to really reflect and look at the world and actually, you know, assess and have a deeper understanding of what's going on, and then be able to consolidate that into this like convenient song that people could just listen to and get it. And it's not because necessarily the lyrics, it might just be the way it makes them feel. It's like it synthesizes all that information. So music is so deep, and if you want to be a great artist, you have to be that deep with it. You got to go do the work, and that's what the work is. It's really the work on yourself ends up being what makes you a great artist. So that's my biggest advice for any artist.
No, that's deep, man. That's good. And a lot of people can probably really use that and take that.
Definitely. I appreciate it.
All right. Last question. What is one thing you wish more people asked that isn't asked enough in interviews, like for you? This one gets everyone. So
you know what? I think in interviews, we're often so focused on like, oh, you know, we just won this award. We just, you know, you got the album coming out, and like all that is great and it's very necessary. It needs to be part of the conversation. But I feel like the best interviews are the ones where I feel like I learned about the artist as a person, and not necessarily from just asking about their life, but asking them and talking to them about topics related to the world and have nothing to do with their music, and allowing them to kind of speak on those things. I think as artists, we kind of get boxed into this like caricature of ourselves, where it's like we're asked like the same questions and we're like, okay, this is who I am. Like, I am Maurice Moore. I sing R&B songs. And it's like, nah, I'm like, we're so much more than that. And you know, this conversation, especially towards the end, is kind of moved in that space. And I appreciate that, because I think that's the best. A lot of times it might come up. I'm always watching interviews of my favorite artists, and my favorite ones are always the ones where I'm like, ooh, I didn't know he was thinking like that. But that's really interesting.
I always try to pull a little bit out of who you are as a person, because I can ask you all the cookie cutter questions in the world and copy someone else's interview. But what does that do for me? Like, I know you on a different level because you're local. I've seen you live. Like, I already know that about you. So getting a little deeper is always nice. And like you said, you have to ask some of those questions and talk about some of those things just because, but it's nice to know more.
Definitely, bro. No, I mean, I'm excited. Like, this is my first interaction with Hidden Beasts, but I'm excited to see what other interviews that you got going on, because, you know, this has been fun. It's been mad chill. Usually interviews are like hella stiff and like, you know,
honestly,
they can be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I try to leave it very casual. Like, I wrote up my talking points about 10 minutes before this, because I didn't want to be too stiff, and I wanted to make sure we can flow really nicely.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
But yeah, for sure, you should check out some of the other stuff. We talked with Teddy Richards, who's Aretha Franklin's son.
Oh,
So
wow. That's crazy.
that was a sick one. We got a few going on that were pretty fun. So there's always good stuff out there to check out.
Wow. That's awesome, man.
That's pretty much all I have for you at this point. Is there anything else you want to add?
Man, we covered a lot of ground. I just want to say, whoever's listening, man, I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in with Maurice Moore and Hidden Beats. And we going straight to the moon, baby. The only way is up. I'll see y'all at the top.
And I'll have to, actually, I just thought about this now. I got some, so I'm actually a photographer mainly. I've actually got some shots from that show. I'll have to send over. I'll send some over to you for sure.
Yes, please do.
Mm. All right, well, we'll end it off because I know you got another interview coming up shortly, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. It looks like it's nice and sunny there.
Oh yeah, it's great out here. I'm out in Palm Springs. I came out here just for a little creative escape, and it's been fire. So
we're actually getting sun and snow's melting here finally, so things are looking up.
Fine.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, man, I enjoyed the conversation for sure. I look forward. I hope we have a round 2 at some point, and we'll look for your new project coming out. And congrats on that award.
My man, I appreciate it, brother.
All right, have a good one.
Cheers.